The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
First Speaking podcast coming to you here, December 3rd, 2020. It is the last month of this disastrous year. But we got some groundbreaking stuff going on here on this podcast today. We're in a threesome here with my guys. The student game, Kyle Nash, of course, and Big Jim, James Nies. Fellas, what's up?
I mean, you gave me top billing over Big Jim. You're out of your mind, son. Like, as much wrestling as you do, I should be last at this party. I should be lucky to get a single bone off a friggin' chicken wing. What's wrong with you?
Hey, man, everybody knows if you're doing it right, the champ always comes in last. That's all.
That's a great point by you, Big Jim. This is the issue I'm talking about.
Well, then you know tell Vince what happened in WrestleMania 5 with Macho and Hogan. How the fuck is Macho come out first for Hogan? I know Hogan's the guy, but Macho's the champion at the time.
That's true.
Still pisses me off this day, dude. And I love Hogan.
I couldn't tell.
Still pisses me off, dude.
It's not too soon, brother. Yeah.
and not only that happened in Jim. You might have watched the watch along on Take 3 we did a couple weeks ago. It happened at Survivor Series 2 that, the year before that. Well, 6 months before that. Where, like, Macho comes out first with his guys, and Hogan's the last fucking one. Meanwhile, who's holding the belt?
Hogan must pose, brother.
That's
know
right.
it.
Yeah,
Hogan
right.
must pose.
This is how I know I'm in a wrestling room, because my perspective was Harlem Nights. That movie would not have happened if Eddie Murphy did not capitulate and give Richard Pryor top billing. So there you go.
Speaking of Richard Pryor, I did a podcast last night and I did a topic on Richard Pryor. Our old friend Dustin Tinsley wrote an article for ESPN, The Undefeated, about Richard Pryor, who would have turned 80 yesterday, and just kind of recapping, his career and this one interview he did with Robert Walters back in '86, and I was just recapping this how like tragic his life was. He's one of the most amazing, obviously Mount Rushmore comedians of all time, but equally tragic in his story. And that interview he was very open and honest and all that. So it's just kind of funny you mention his name right there.
Oh, hey, listen, look out in February where we will actually have our Harlem Nights episode on Hilarity by Default's YouTube channel. There you go.
Oh, are you serious?
Does it sound like, I mean, I know I have some laugh with you guys because you're awesome, but no, like that shit's really like a heart attack. It's already in the can. It's been recorded. Our good friend Tokyo Jameson, TJ, will be on hand.
Nice.
So, no, that's going to be a good episode and expected in February, ladies and gentlemen.
Shout out to Big TJ, of course. Tokyo Jameson.
Indeed.
Anyway, we're here to talk football real quick.
Yes.
We really want to cover really 3 topics because these 3 topics really are kind of the biggest topics of the week as we now enter Week 13, the NFL season, of course. Let's start here first. It's somewhere close to where Big Jim is at in PA and the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, you're not an Eagles fan. You're a Cowboys fan. It doesn't matter. But you hate the Eagles like I do. Probably just as much, if not worse, because they're the same state. But whatever. Dude, these guys are we're 13 weeks of the year. And they're 3-7-1 in last place in the division, and yet have a chance to win the division if things.
Don't you take the last place for my Dallas Cowboys? We are sitting.
Oh, that's right. You guys have 3 wins. My bad.
Overall pick. Don't you take that from me and from us?
That's right. You guys are 3-7 also. Well, they're 3-7-1, but
we're 8. We didn't tie any motherfuckers. We either find cheap wins or most likely we lose.
Do you understand how much of a joy it is to watch Big Jim's Twitter feed on Sundays when the Cowboys are on?
You're awful. Like, now you're going to pretend to be a Giants fan just because Big Jim's on the show when we already know you're a Patriots fan, EJ.
Oh, stop it. We're still doing that now? Cam, swag? Come on now.
Facts of the case of these, and they are not in dispute. I have Nathan R. Jessup on speed dial for your bullshit.
No, but I'm not even talking as a Giants fan. I'm talking this as a person that's like, watching Cowboy fans implode every fucking year.
Oh,
it's the same thing. I've seen many of them do that over the course of my, near 40 years of living. But I think Big Jim takes the cake now. Like he's gone over and beyond now. Like the frustration is real on these streets.
Dude, it's awful. And like honestly now, like I don't even know like how to feel anymore because like I want to be mad because it's ingrained in me to not want my team to lose, but in the same time I'm sitting here going, why would they win at this point? So then I was in that position a couple weeks ago when they're beating the Steelers, and I'm going, what are you doing? Like, and they don't get me wrong, they found a way to lose then. But like then when they beat the Vikings, I'm like, guys, do you not understand? Like, I get it. Like, mathematically, we're still alive, but you have a number 3 pick. There are so many things wrong with this team. And you have an opportunity to fill one of those positions with a great player, probably the best at whatever position you pick, because there's plenty. Right. Whatever position you pick, you're going to have the pick of the litter at the 3rd overall pick, and you're going to blow it. The Cowboys are so bad, they can't even lose out properly.
I hate to do this to you, Jim, but as somebody who wrote on the USA Today wire for a different NFL team this time last year, you sound very similar to a Dolphins fan as that group went 5-11 to finish the season and come on strong with Brian Flores. Now, reason why I bring this up isn't to pile on you. No. But to show you that light at the end of the tunnel might exist. And when you guys do fire Mike Nolan, I think you have an opportunity to turn things around.
I think so too. And I mean, obviously you lose it, and obviously we're going into, this is a little sidebar to the Eagles. Like, this was a weird offseason. It was a weird preseason. Everything's been weird this year. I'm not ready to get rid of Mike McCarthy. I know some Cowboys fans probably are. I am ready to get rid of Mike Nolan. I am also ready to get rid of Kellen Moore as the OC. But when you get Dak Prescott back, you figure out why Ezekiel Elliott's not running the same way that he used to. And you find some depth in your offensive line. You work on the defense. There's quality there. There's a reason why I was optimistic going into this season, which I should have known better. 2020 is like a bullet train. But honestly, if some subtle changes and some major changes happen, I think, I'm not selling this franchise up the river, just yet. But I mean, you lose a Dak Prescott. That's a huge thing. And there's a point I'll make, later in this Carson Wentz Eagles discussion that, I'm sure will piss off some Eagles fans, but I'm not afraid to say it.
I'll jump right out and head too as somebody who's been a Carson Wentz apologist later. That's going to be a fun conversation when we get to it. So stay tuned, folks.
Well, we're doing it right now. We're doing it right now because Carson Wentz
I got to say something here because again, it's not often I get to talk to Jim in real time.
Yeah.
But I do take issue with one thing, sir. Football, as the football gods are concerned, you really can't be all that frustrated to some extent. And as a matter of fact, sir, your Notre Dame Fighting Irish, as critical as I've been when they've deserved it, have done me a huge solid in proving to the exact degree that the ACC is bleeding useless, okay? Trevor Lawrence goes down, and the mercenary is winning the goddamn conference. Jim, I salute you. And say what you will.
Are we saying that Florida State's not good anymore? Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Are we saying Florida State's not good anymore?
Oh, this guy. Now you're just talking. By the way, here's my question here. If this guy claims to be an FSU fan like he claims to be a Giants fan, and then it ends up throwing more rock gifts at me than I can imagine. Hey, dummy, he went to Miami. That doesn't work.
Hey, but it's still rocking Miami. Come on now.
And by the way, side note, I'm still waiting for my Christmas card from the ACC, specifically Miami, for the American Athletic Conference, providing their damn quarterback that's successful. And I'll tell you, as somebody who covers UCF, if they end up getting a hold of Mackenzie Milton and doing the same ish next year by competing more than they ever have with their own actual recruited quarterback, I'm just going to keep pandering how overrated the damn ACC is. And that's including your precious Seminoles, EJ. Hashtag I said it. So, Jim,
they're terrible. We don't disagree with that. We don't disagree, though. They're terrible. We know that. We disagree.
I mean, obviously, I want the most success that this Notre Dame team can get, but I would love, obviously, nothing more because all I've heard for years is Notre Dame needs to join a conference. Notre Dame needs to join, and I've made the point they don't have to. First, I mean, brand value aside, the fact that year in, year out, they've been able to kind of stack their schedule in different ways. But I'm like, I would love nothing more for them to walk into a conference and go undefeated, win it, and then go, all right, fuckers, I'm out, and just go back to doing what they've done the entirety of their program. And I can just sit there and go, okay, we joined a conference for a year and we won it. What else?
It's funny. I can't stand the Irish, but if that would have actually happened, I'll admit I'll laugh on that one. I'll take a toast to that one. Just for the narrative.
The only problem that they have, the only way that a conference is currently screwed Notre Dame is the rematch paradigm. But hey, folks, I'm going to tell you this. I'm hoping that Notre Dame loses this game for one reason alone. No offense, Jim. For one reason alone. So we stop with this bullshit of the Big Ten inclusion, who played all of 4 games, and I'm supposed to give a damn. Listen, I'm not even advocating for a UCF team this year that's getting overlooked by analysts. I get that you don't like their defense. I'm not fond of it either. That's cool. But you want to screw over Cincinnati team or other teams that are good? Listen, I'm an SEC guy, and I think Texas A&M is overrated as hell. Please, I'm praying that Clemson wins the rematch, only so you get 2 ACC teams once, and really break the system and show these former and current athletic directors that make up this committee that Condoleezza Rice is a better choice for you on the CF than any of you are on the college football committee.
Don't drop the condolingus now. Don't.
Oh, I just did, son. And by the way, if your wife's listening, I don't think she's complaining either. Hashtag I said it.
Yes, you did say it. You did say it. How the fuck? Here's my question: how the hell did we get from Carson Wentz to the Cowboys, Carson Wentz to Notre Dame football? Oh yeah, Big Jim's here. That's right.
Exactly.
And I mean this is a full compliment. Big Jim is actually the most intelligent Notre Dame fan I know, because he's willing to accept the fact that there are warts here and there. At the end of the day, it's all good.
Absolutely. Who are they playing this weekend?
They got Syracuse this weekend. This should be a breeze for me. My only question is if they're going to cover the 31.5 or not. And
did we have this conversation with Florida State a couple weeks ago about spreads and stuff like, it feels like it'd be a breeze, but should they cover the 21 points or not? I don't know.
Spreading is COVID, son. All right, I said it.
But EJ, in my defense, you got to understand. The last time Notre Dame won national title, I was 3 years old. My entire life, I'm used to them not covering spreads, playing down to opponents. So them actually putting their throat on an opponent and continuing to step down is a completely foreign thing to me.
And that's a Lou Holtz, right? That was with Lou Holtz, right?
That was Holtz.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Hey, real quick, one thing I'm going to say while I got Jim here as an intelligent Notre Dame fan, you need to stop these fools when they even whisper a word of firing Brian Kelly, because the Fighting Irish, we talked about this before on Twitter.
That's still a thing?
No, not right now, of course, because they're winning.
A couple of years ago it was.
Bingo. Do you understand, Ernest Julius Christian, that
Julius.
should they achieve a 10-win season, that Brian Kelly represents the first Notre Dame coach with 4 consecutive Notre Dame 10-win seasons?
Yes, sir.
That's right.
I know you know it, Jim. I mean, this ignorant fool that wants to talk to me about the Seminoles.
I know. I didn't know what that.
So this was a wild realization because for me, I saw the end of the Lou Holtz era, and it was because they didn't want him to even cross the 100-win threshold. They didn't want to get him near Newt Rockne's record, which is 105. Brian Kelly had 100 wins at Notre Dame 2 weeks ago. He's at 101 right now. And I looked at the schedule and I started doing the math, and I went, wait a fucking minute. If and I'm not saying they will, because it is definitely an uphill climb. But if they would finish the year undefeated, they would win the college football playoff national championship. Brian Kelly's 106th win would be that national championship.
And by the way, side note, excellent presser too. I think he's a good guy. So you know what? I'm cheering for it.
Yeah, I like Brian Kelly a lot. I went to a game in 2016, which was the year they went 4-8, and there was a lot of people that wanted him fired. But there was a lot of things that going into that season that there was a reason they went 4-8. Not that they should have went 4-8, but there was a reason it was an off year. And it was just kind of one of those things. Trust the process. Let it happen. Let it play out. And since then, they have not had anything less than 10 wins. And
you just throw a trust of process out there, Jim.
Well, look,
you're a basketball guy now?
I got approval at bubble time to be a Sixers fan. One of my co-hosts and longtime friends on Huddle Up gave me approval to become a Sixers fan because I didn't know what the status of the NHL was going to be.
Was that Matt or Ryan? Which one?
Matt. That was Matt.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I gotta try to get into the NBA, and it looks like based on the NHL, I don't know what the hell's going on with them. The NBA is going to be my saving grace when football's over. So, was it raise the cat and go Sixers?
By the way, Jim references 2016 with Brian Kelly. 2017, if I remember correctly, was the year that we saw him in a bowl game in a rainy garbage Citrus Bowl.
Yes, sir.
Pull Brandon Wimbush for Ian Book, and Wimbush would basically never be heard from again in a meaningful way.
Never looked back.
Never looked back.
Side note, also the same one that was eclipsed by the guy that would also end up replacing Mackenzie Milton. Side note.
Yep.
You just side notes.
Hey man, listen. Somebody's got to bring the knowledge here, and I really feel like I had to impress Jim with my Notre Dame knowledge too. So there you go.
I am impressed. Now we will go back. I think we're talking the Eagles, right, EJ?
I don't know. Yes. What's the basketball too in the Sixers all of a sudden?
Joel Embiid is a fun big man to watch when he's healthy. Next question.
When he's healthy, which has been healthier than most years. By the way, quickly on the hockey thing you mentioned about hockey, there's word about them probably doing games outdoors now because of COVID.
Yeah, I saw the Bruins, Penguins. There's two other teams looking at potential doing a number of outdoor games. I'm all for it, dude. I love the Winter Classic. I love the stadiums there. Give me all the and if you want ratings too, more people are going to tune into an outdoor hockey game than are going to tune into one in an arena anyway.
That's
constant. True. The anomaly will be known heretofore as the Constant Classic. I'm down.
Love it.
That's a classic. So Carson Wentz, mediocre at best, mediocre season. Leads league interceptions right now through 13 weeks. Where do you guys stand on the Wentz thing? Is this an anomaly? Because there's been deterioration last couple of years, obviously, with the team since winning the Super Bowl in 2017 rather. Wentz has looked, pretty mediocre at best. He had a little run late last year, albeit against easy ass teams down the stretch to get to the playoffs, but.
Spoken like a true Giants fan.
No. Well, first off, I love Carson Wentz. I had him a top 5 quarterback like 2-3 years ago. Don't forget that I was one saying in 2016 that there's this Aaron Rodgers. Sounds pretty bad now in hindsight. But Kyle, you go first because I know I want to hear Big Jim's reaction on the back end because I know where he's going to go with this. But where are you at Wentz now? Huh?
I'll follow your lead, and I'll put it this way. As the one person who doesn't celebrate a team in the NFC least, I'm probably arguably a level of credible in my own way in this particular exchange. But nonetheless, see, here's the thing, gentlemen, and I think Big Jim will even back me on a portion of this. We found a way to even get one Dakota Prescott throwing over 500 yards, albeit granted against a Falcons team with a lot of weapons missing.
Hi, Danny Thompson.
Shouts to my co-host on Beyond the Buzzer and FraudCon fan Danny Thompson. Yes, well played. But when it comes to Carson Wentz, the way he has willed this Eagles team to beat or compete in games where they shouldn't, we're still going to go to work on him? That just feels wrong to me. First of all, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really ready to do a reboot of the TV series MASH, and I'm going to base it on the Philadelphia Eagles team rather than the Vietnam War. Just because I'm feeling that's how much the Eagles are missing staff. Defensively, offensively, especially in the trenches. Who is he even throwing to anymore, for the love of Pete? Listen, and it's funny. Bears fans react to their offensive coach when they're struggling as if it's his fault, even though Mitch Trubisky is their quarterback. But then when Carson Wentz, as a first-round draft pick himself, starts falling apart, he gets blamed instead of Doug Peterson. I don't get that. Try to explain that to me, but I digress. The punchline is this. Who's left for him to even throw? Even Zach Ertz was hurt for once, for goodness sake. The history of receiver injuries with this Philadelphia squad is horrendous. But we're going to blame Carson Wentz. I can't get behind that. I can't do it.
Big Jim.
This is the way I look at it. And yes, I agree that obviously between offensive line and receiver injuries, not just this year, in the last couple of years, Carson Wentz has been put into very difficult situations. But at some point, that argument can only go so far. And I'm not saying that Carson Wentz is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He is extremely talented, but there are other quarterbacks that have had, less talent than the majority of the league and have deal with injuries all the time, and they found ways to make it work. This is what I think about Carson Wentz. I think the talent level as a number one overall pick and as a guy who, for the Eagles that was taken as high as he was, the talent level's there. That is undeniable. But, I live in central Pennsylvania. I have tons of friends who are Eagles fans. When I see more Eagles games probably than I care to, want. But the way I look at it is Carson Wentz is not the same quarterback post injuries as he was pre injuries. And I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if it's fear, if it's what exactly it is. But the Carson Wentz that I saw before the injuries, particularly the one, that eventually led the Eagles with Foles to the Super Bowl, still gags. But since then, he just doesn't seem to be the same guy. He doesn't have that extra something that makes quarterbacks great. And, I don't know if the Eagles should write him off. I don't know if they should start Jalen Hurts, at least for a game, to kind of, snap Carson Wentz out of whatever funk he's in. But I just, looking at a guy, I do not see the same Carson Wentz that I saw before he started getting the injuries. And I texted EJ this the other day, and this is what I'm going to say, is being a Cowboys fan in this area, I have heard so much of, Carson is better than Dak. Carson has a ring. Well, first of all, yes, Carson has a ring. Carson didn't win that ring. He didn't. But my point is, I don't want to hear that argument anymore. Now, will Dak Prescott be the same? I don't know. That's a great mystery. But you can't tell me watching this season, I don't care what injuries do. Right now, you could not tell me that Carson Wentz is greater than symbol Dak Prescott right now. Regardless of how you feel about either guy. I just, the Carson Wentz that was drafted when he was and played in the early part of his career, that is not the same Carson that plays now.
That's fair, but the question I would pose, Jim, is so we both are aware that the injury he did suffer was catastrophic's a word I'll go with,
Absolutely.
But I think there's an element of at what point was he actually fully air quotes recovered. And I'm not even saying like back to the same level, because that's just unreasonable to ask for. Much like you even hinted at with our good friend Dakota, who, will probably not be exactly the same guy. And that's a whole other conversation. Listen, I like Dak, by the way. Can we get that out the way? The Dak attack to me.
Top 10.
I don't bet all that. But
Did we decide 2 weeks ago, Kyle? Top 10?
no,
Was he top
we
10?
did not on
Oh.
Dakota Prescott. We did not
Okay.
put that in place because of simply the fact that he has to put it incomplete on his report card. It's not his fault.
That's right. Yeah, you were doing that whole report card thing. That's right. You did say that.
But let's pay attention for once. This explains why you're sounding more intelligent lately. Anyways.
Oh.
No, but I got to take some shots. This is what we do, Big Jim. I talk smack on
Oh,
this.
he knows.
Oh, hell yeah.
But every bit of evaluation, it's awesome. What's awesome, Jim, about your take is the way you word it is so bleeding perfect. You should run for office if you could deal with the insanity of it. But the Is he the same quarterback? No, and it's ridiculous to expect him to be. But somehow or another, he still managed to rise from the ashes and take a team to the playoffs and, by the bleeding way, beat Deshaun Watson's silliness away from winning the damn thing, right? That's all I can say about that part. But
I don't doubt, and it's easier, I've seen so many takes from Cowboys because obviously I follow a lot of Cowboys fans and Cowboys pages, and they just try to take the
how do you do it?
And
how do you do it?
Trust me, that list has shrank. Either I've unfollowed them or they've blocked me. One of
hey, I get that from UCF fans too, man. It's all good.
Yeah. So like, you don't hit the low-hanging fruit because it's cheap and it's easy. If you look a little bit deeper, yes, obviously that is a catastrophic injury. It's hard to come back from. And I mean, since then, he hasn't had a healthy team, but there are just certain things that if you look, deeper than the surface, like there was a couple of plays, particularly this past Monday, where early career Carson Wentz, and it feels weird saying that because he hasn't even been in the league that long.
Right.
But like
4 years, 5 years at most, I think.
Yeah, so like pre-injury Carson Wentz would have made this quick pass here, would have made this cut there, would have done this here, and this Carson Wentz is missing some of the most obvious things that even me, a guy who never played a down of football in his life, could look at a piece of film and go, man, he probably should have hit that. And to me, that's the part. And that's where I think it's more mental with him is he knows the guy that he's always been. And he kind of he has to change it, but he has to find that middle ground of, look, I'm not a 100% pocket guy, but I can't necessarily be the 100% mobile guy anymore because my body's not going to allow it. He has to find that middle ground for himself, and until he does that, he's going to continue to have this struggle. But for him and for Doug Peterson and this Eagles team, COVID may have been somewhat of a blessing in a way, because if Lincoln Financial Field is full of fans and this product is out there,
question.
They have to answer a lot harder questions. Then Carson's our guy. We're going to give Jalen some looks in practice. That's not going to work when there's 60,000 booing Eagles fans ready to throw batteries at your sideline instead of at Santa Claus.
Side note, by the way, too, like he's had press ask him these hard questions about, are you worried about getting benched? And he's answered him with bleeding class in his own right. So I give him credit for that, too. And then when you combine that with him having to throw to guys that are getting drafted out of friggin' Old Dominion and receiver, for goodness sake, cut this poor bastard some slack. That's all I'm saying. But not to imply that you aren't, Jim. I don't mean to say you're being harsh, but I mean, that's just my stance.
I don't think I'm ready to end the Wentz. I don't want to call it experiment. He is starting quarterback. He got a big contract a year ago. I'm not ready to cut it off this year. If I'm an Eagles fan, I'm running back next year. If next year you see the same thing, then you get worried. Then we'll talk. It's way too early.
Right now, if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm looking at the remainder of this schedule, and I understand that they are half a game, out of the front running of that division at 4-7.
The sacrificial lamb spot, yes.
You probably don't give Jalen a look again at Green Bay. You probably don't give him a look versus New Orleans. But then you have 3 games after that: Arizona, Dallas, Washington. Chances are you're going into Arizona at 4-9-1. Let's be serious. The Eagles aren't beating the Packers or the Saints. At that point, you're very unlikely to still be in a realistic playoff hunt. At that point, if Carson hasn't started to get some of this stuff out of his head, give it to Jalen for a game, or at least give Jalen the start in a couple of drives. I
agree.
I agree. And this is where Doug has to have the conversation with Carson and go, look, man, this isn't about you. Like, this season is tough. We're all banged up. There's a crappy situation, but like, we're just kind of, we're figuring things out. You're still our guy. You can still tell you're still our guy. Whether that works, but you have to also figure out what you might potentially have in Jalen Hurts. That look shouldn't come until Arizona. That look should not come against Green Bay or New Orleans. But I'm not ready. If I'm an Eagles fan, if I'm the Eagles, I'm not ready to write off Carson Wentz either. But yeah, if things don't start improving early next year, when you probably, hopefully, dear God, hopefully have a normal summer, a normal camp, a normal preseason, then you have to really go, okay, maybe he's not going to be that guy.
I don't know. My only issue with that take, Jim, is that I would wait till that Cowboys game because listen, people, I said it in August, and people are still trying to doubt the Cardinals. # you problem. But that ain't an easy out either, folks. Special K and that offense are some bad man pajamas.
Oh, we'll discuss that in a second when I playoff locks. What about Doug Peterson? You think his job should be in question going forward? I mean, when I say go forward, I mean like this present time. Like, I mean, he won a Super Bowl a couple years ago, and as we know, a Super Bowl gives you a lot of leash in this league.
And he wrote a book, right? But hey, listen, Jim's already answered this question to my satisfaction. # because COVID, the air quotes blessing aforementioned. I think Peterson takes advantage of that blessing all the same, just as Jim has cited.
Yeah, I think unless it's, and again, it's hard to believe we're saying this, that at this point of the season, going into week 13, that with 3 wins, you're still right in the hunt. I feel like as bad as it's been this year, unless it's really, really a horrible, horrible bullet train of disaster. I think you have to give coaches some leeway. This year has been just unbelievable in so many ways.
Indeed.
Yeah, I agree. Every time I feel sad or depressed, I want to get shit. When I smile, I'll put a smile on my face. I look at the NFC East in the division, like Jesus Christ, this is horrible. Look, I'm staring at it right now. It's not that we have all 4 teams under 500. It's that we are now in fucking December, and this is still the case.
By the way, if we're going to cite anything involving all 4 teams, I'm going to cite all 4 teams being pretty badass considering in the NFC West, and just leave that on my laurels based on statements I predicted back in August. Moving on.
Yeah, of course. And I'm with you too. You actually agreed with me. I know where you're going with that, and you and I have agreement on that. No, but seriously, and it's funny. One of these 4 teams are going to actually host a playoff game. I mean, think about that a second. I mean, seriously.
We've had this conversation, EJ, entirely too many times about how 10 wins should be a requirement for hosting a game. And if there's not enough teams, that's a different question, obviously. Right. But if you don't win 10 games, you can be allowed in the playoffs. But the wild card team that has 10 wins and you don't as a division winner, you're traveling. I'm sorry, bitches. That's how it should work.
I do think, though, like this situation here is an anomaly. Like this actual
because
situation.
COVID. Yeah.
Well, COVID. Well, not as COVID. It's
COVID injuries. But yeah, it's goofy.
I do think the reason they have it, the home game, hosting the home game, because they want to make winning a division special, and I get that. But
if you look at it, there's this year will likely. I mean, obviously, 2-3 teams with only 7 losses. That there's still realistically or mathematically an opportunity for one of these teams to win the division above 500. But when it doesn't happen, this will only be the 3rd time that a team sub 500 will host a game. So yeah, it's not something that's happening a ton. If it happens more often, maybe the league needs to look at it.
And address it because of a pattern, if you will.
Well,
anyway, next topic I want to discuss here with you guys: the 11-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. They beat the Ravens yesterday on Wednesday afternoon football. How weird is that, watching football on Wednesday in the afternoon?
Hey, I'll take it. I've been laid off since April. I'll take football every day of the week if I can get it.
Good call.
I was at work like, whoa, this is weird. Okay, I'll take it, but yeah, it's weird.
I mean, I'd like a better game if they're going to give me some Wednesday afternoon football, but it's hard to argue with Wednesday afternoon football.
Well, I mean, if you look at if the situation wasn't as dire as it was, this was a huge game for both teams, especially for the Ravens, who were desperate for a win, and this is the one this is Kyle's like wet dream, the rivalry itself, the Ravens and the Steelers. Let's get better than that for him.
Normally it would be, and I mean, I'm not going to go quite that erotically inappropriate with the terminology, but let's put it this way. It's the premier rivalry in the NFL right now, right? You're going to try to tell me the Bears are prominent enough for me to give a damn about Packers-Bears? Here's a hint, they aren't. And if the 49ers weren't the sequel to the MASH movie that I just should be made based on the Eagles, I might still think that Seahawks and 49ers is a big deal. And who knows? Yeah. Maybe it still will be. You never know who in Seattle could get hurt.
Add real quick, though, Kyle, that I think you and I maybe discussed this like a couple of years ago on the show, that there is Packers-Bears. There isn't no – that is probably the most overrated rivalry, not just in football, but probably all sports.
I'm not going to go that far, and I think I said this at the time. When the ish goes back so far that the Bears are still the goddamn Decatur Staleys, there's some trivia for you, Betchels.
Yep.
You know, that means something. Now, for it to be the event, I mean, it's not as bad as like, you know, Saints and Falcons fans trying to convince me that their damn game matters. Here's a hint. It just doesn't in the same way. Sorry. But I right now today, I know people are going to walk out of that game black and blue when I see Steelers Ravens and Niners Seahawks. Now, granted, that all that being said, when Ben Roethlisberger retires, that could all change. But I'm glad to see that the rivalry is still relevant after Flacco's departure, and that L-Jack has still done well enough to keep this Ravens team on its feet to make that game matter still.
That being said, Steelers 11-0, clearly, you know, the best record in football, obviously. But a lot of folks aren't impressed with it. Like, there's the term overrated being thrown at his team, you know. And then you look at the schedule they played, and you know, like I don't necessarily agree in its totality, but there was this meme I saw on Facebook, and I'll share it with listeners here real quick before we dive into the topic. So the opening year against the Giants, and they beat Daniel Jones. Then they barely beat the Broncos. Then they beat Bill O'Brien, who then got fired after this game. Then they beat Carson Wentz. Oh damn, Carson Wentz. beat the overrated Browns week 5. Then they got bailed out by the refs versus the Titans.
Which isn't true, but keep going.
Right. Barely beat the Ravens the first time they played. Barely beat Big Jim's Cowboys, which is true. Beat the 2-win Bengals. Beat Jake Luton, which is the quarterback for the Jaguars, and barely beat the Ravens practice squad plus third string QB. So this is obviously a meme meant to damage the Steelers, obviously, and this is probably a Steeler hater, obviously, who made this thing. But you look at that, it's like, well, I mean, there is maybe some truth to that, but I don't know. I don't know if I fall in that rabbit hole like that. Are the Steelers overrated or underrated, Big Jim?
That's a hard question. I don't think they're as good as 11-0 says. So I guess theoretically, I'm saying they're overrated. Do I think the Steelers are one of the best teams in the NFL this year? I do. That said, I don't think that says a whole lot, because if you a couple of weeks ago we talked about this on Huddle Up, that I feel like there's 1 or 2, maybe 3 what I would consider great teams. There's a handful at least of bad teams, and then there's everybody else. There's a lot of like middle of the road, and whether that's injuries, whether that's COVID, whether that's the league just trying to make things more competitive, I don't know exactly what it is. Probably more has to do with COVID. But, you know, they are one of the weakest 11-0 teams possibly in at least in recent memory. I don't know how many 11-0 teams there's been recently. But
what about those Rex Grossman Bears, folks? Just throwing that out there.
I like, you know, and I saw a tweet, and I'm going to try to find it maybe while Kyle's talking, but there was a tweet I saw earlier today about some of the quarterbacks that this Steelers team has beaten you know, throughout this run, and it's not exactly murderer's row. You know, it's just not something that when you get to, you know, the later points of the season. Oh, here I found it. Among the quarterbacks the Steelers have faced this year, RG3, Jake Luton, Drew Lock slash Jeff Driscoll, Garrett Gilbert, the 2020 version of Carson Wentz, also Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones.
Hey, leave Daniel alone.
That's alone. I didn't hear anybody mention Ryan Tannehill, for the record.
Tannehill's a good quarterback. He's solid. He's
okay. But, like, my point is, when you get into the playoffs and you get against, we get to Patrick Mahomes, when you get to Josh Allen, and if you somehow make it to the Super Bowl, which I don't think the Steelers team will do, you're probably staring down the barrel of Aaron Rodgers, because to me, they are the best team in the NFC. But you also have a Russell Wilson. You also, there's a lot better, opposing quarterbacks, and now you've lost your, arguably your best defensive player. This Steelers team is kind of a house of cards, I believe.
A house of cards is a fine description, Jim. But here's the reason why I don't necessarily. I mean, they're of course, saying that they're overrated is fair. Overrated doesn't mean bad. I mean, I spent a number of years when a certain rookie that was leaning on the backs of his teammates before he got progressively better to then become one of the most disrespected players in the league. Of course, I referred to Russell Carrington Wilson. But Rusty was still plenty good back when he was overrated, and I think the Steeler team also marks this. By the way, somebody who claims to be a fan of this team should be drawing a parallel here to another quarterback and team that would go on miraculous playoff runs and be told they were still not that good until they supplanted Tom Brady. Right? Giants fan, allegedly, because this group looks like that Giants group. They're not necessarily buttoned up, but they will impress you in certain opportunities and moments. Like, listen, suddenly the Ravens are bad. Like, I get it. This week was an anomaly. Hell, both sides had COVID to beat hell and back, but the Ravens are a competitive team when they're at full strength, and they won that game. People throughout my entire writing pen over at the three-point conversion, threepointconversion.com, shouts to our good friend Controversy Raphael Haynes, tried to tell me that I should buy the Titans. I said, listen, fools, I picked them to win the division. You're not getting anything more than me out of that. Then they proceeded to crumble on the big stage against the Steelers and then not manage to recover. I don't want to hear about referee issues or anything like that, because you're starting to sound like an All-In Saints fan that left plenty of money on the table and want to complain about one play later. Okay, it's 60 minutes of football, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget that. So if you want to try to slam that Titans win, stop it, okay? The difference between a Steelers team that's gone 11-0, which if you want to say that you wouldn't expect them to go 11-0, that's cool. I didn't either. But to put them and call them pretenders in the same world where people were trying to sell me the Bears 5 weeks in and the Titans 7 weeks in, you need to silence yourselves. I tried to tell you people the Bears were pretenders.
That was cute. Was that cute back in week 2 when they were like 3-0, 2-3-0, and like, oh, this Bears team was I was getting in fights with Montel Hardy and G. Steelio about this team's a fraud. Just you wait and look now.
Listen, yeah, Montel Hardy follows his team until they're worse than 500, and then he closes the bookshelf and, finds better things to do than watch Bears. Listen, just to my dude Montel Hardy. And of course, we all know about the heart slob and what he does with his Bears fandom, I should say. Yeah.
Jay Cutler fan club.
Jay Cutler. I mean, the dude's favorite quarterback is Jay Cutler. What more do I need to tell you about a man's football acumen? Okay? I'm just saying. But, but Jim's spot on. They're not a Super Bowl team, not by any stretch. However, I could have told you that I would have never picked Eli Manning as a Super Bowl and MVP, and the damn dude did it twice. Welcome to why they play him on Sundays, gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, the Steelers, to me, look, are they a Super Bowl contender? Yes. Playoff contender, all that stuff. Yes, they are. Because when you 11-0, you 11-0. 11-0. Like, this conversation should have been had 5 weeks ago when it was 6-0. You know what I mean? 11-0. I mean, once you win 11 games in a row, I don't give a shit who you're beating. That's impressive as shit. Okay. Now, the question you can ask yourself is this: do you see them winning in the playoffs? Do you see them beating Kansas City? That's the number one question, really. Are they better than Kansas City? Because really, in the AFC, I mean, what teams do you think are on that level besides the Chiefs?
They're going to win a playoff game, but they're going to get eliminated by Kansas City. I think we can
Right.
solve that real quick here,
but
right?
Is there another team in that conference that you can say that could probably clip off the Steelers? Maybe the Titans?
No.
They almost did week 6.
Right.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but, I mean,
the Titans could. The Bills could.
I'm not ready to go Buffalo. I'm not ready to go Buffalo just yet. I got to see more Buffalo.
I'm saying they could. I'm not necessarily saying yes. The Bills are going to beat them. I'm not saying the Titans are going to beat them. I've been saying all year that the Titans are are one of the most fraudulent teams. And that might have to do with my hatred for Clay Travis. That might also have to do.
Oh no!
That might also have to do with my frustration with Ryan Tannehill as one of my fantasy quarterbacks. Post Dak Prescott's ankle exploding. I don't know, but I have hatred for the Tennessee Titans.
Kyle, remember I was telling you about Big Jim's timeline and things he hates and stuff. Yeah. Clay Travis is top 3.
Oh, easy right now.
Bro kick.
Top 3. Bro kick. or out shield the coverage. One of the two. I haven't totally settled which one.
Jesus.
But really, to me, the only team that's a guaranteed win against Pittsburgh is Kansas City. There's no way that the Steelers are beating Kansas City. But I'm looking at the playoff picture. Like, if the Dolphins defense has a good day, especially with Dupree out for Pittsburgh, they could potentially do enough to beat them. The Browns, if their defense can do enough to disrupt the Ben Roethlisberger, they could possibly do enough to beat them. I'm not saying they would. I'm not saying they would.
You're saying the wrong thing, Jim. In my mind, Baker's got to survive that defensive front before we even have that conversation, right?
Well, that's true. We'll know a little bit more, maybe. Well, probably not, because the Steelers will probably rest people by then.
I'm going to shock you real quick. The only team I think that can beat, outside Kansas City, that could probably beat the Steelers without being surprised, and honestly, it's going to take them getting in first, is the team that just played on Wednesday, the Ravens.
Well, sure. I mean, again, best rivalry in football. Next question.
Yeah. There you go. So, but, yeah, are they overrated? I guess the record, I mean, in comparison to who they played, you can make a case for it, but I don't want to go there and call overrated. 11-0 is impressive, dude. I don't want to knock 11-0, man. So I'm not going to say overrated, but I do think, are they a shoo-in to go to the Super Bowl? Fuck no. Kansas City's a better team. Gun to my head, Kansas City's a better team. And you can talk me to Tennessee and talk me to you can talk me to Baltimore. Definitely, I can see that happening. And Baltimore should the other before.
I mean, for me, their schedule as a whole is weak as hell. But when your only games that you've won by like 10 or more are against the Giants, the Eagles, the Browns, and the Bengals.
Well, the Browns are
Jaguar.
Yeah,
like that's.
No, I agree.
Yeah, you make 11-0. I'm not gonna take away. It's hard to go 10, 11 wins and 0 in the National Football League. And that's a hard thing to do. Again, COVID issues, schedules being moved around. I don't have a lot of sympathy for millionaire athletes, but I will say their schedule has been disrupted. So I'm not going to take that away from them in what has been a weird year. But,
by the way, there's a lot of Steelers fans listening to this podcast. So Twitter at Big Jim Sports.
Yeah, come at me, bro.
Get at him. Get him.
I live in the ass crack between Eagles country and Steelers country. I'm calloused. You can come at me at Big Jim Sports.
I'm calloused. I like that. By the way, side note, is it okay that I'm cool with, for once, a team other than EJ's Patriots getting the benefit of this bad schedule? Is that okay? Is that allowed?
Sure.
I'm still a Pats fan? Oh, okay, cool.
You've always been a Pats fan.
Big win against Arizona last week. Your Cardinals, just for record. Yeah, can't swag, baby.
Listen, Special K has one bad game, and you want to put it on the Cardinals. Okay,
I love Kyler Murray. You told me don't
forget
that shit.
That Cardinals
to the
team.
Playoffs.
I love that Cardinals team.
Still going to the playoffs.
I think so. Well, we're gonna find out now because our last topic of the night we do Kyle every couple weeks. We're gonna do our playoff locks and forecasts right now. We're now entering week 13. I'm going to give you guys right now the current playoff picture right now as we sit here. 1 second. Let's go to AFC first, since we're still doing that. Okay, so right now, the playoffs start today. And by the way, just so you guys, all you listeners here who've forgotten, we're taking 7 teams this year, not 6. Now we're taking 7 per conference. So right now, the playoffs start today. The four division winners, the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Titans, and the Bills. Your 3 wild cards right now, as we speak, are the Cleveland Browns, the Miami Dolphins, and the Indianapolis Colts. Let me let's make this as simple as possible. Does this hold exact? And if not, what changes? Kyle.
So can I be honest? And I hate to do this because, much like Andre Agassi, as he got older, I liked him more. Phillip Rivers, as he got older, I liked him more. But right now, he is kind of reattaining Philip the Fraud status here. I don't really think I don't think the Colts hold as a playoff team. I just don't. The Raiders and Ravens are behind them. Are both behind him. I should say the Colts. Listen, I love their defense. Their O-line is entirely too good. Frankly, if the Eagles do anything rash like send Carson Wentz packing, I think the Colts should pick him up and they'll make some noise in that division. I'll just throw that out there as a conspiracy theory. But at the end of the day, I think the Browns are going to drop a few more, like they're due to play the Titans. I think the Titans win that football game. If you're going to make it a running team versus a running team, and they got to mix in some play action, Tannehill's winning that battle. I'm sorry. Hate on me all you want. I know that Titans defense isn't all that great. I just don't believe in Baker yet. Shout out to my good friend L.A. Broadus. But, I don't think the Colts are a lock there. I can't take that seriously.
So you would change only the Colts? That's it?
Today, the Browns will sneak in at 7. That's kind of where I'm sitting. Because the Steelers have a bad scheduling situation, guess who else does? The rest of the NFC North or AFC North. That's a fact. So I think they may sneak in, but don't rule out the Ravens passing them up at some point. That's a possibility too, man. So I'm not going to say that the Browns are a lock either. You know what? Put me on record here. I got the Dolphins making the playoffs, boys. They're going to do it. They're not going to win a playoff game. But listen, when I wrote it during his hiring with Dolphins Wire, I think this was just shortly after our good friend Antoine Staley moved on from being my editor. I had described Brian Flores. The gimmick was to make it just like it was the opening to Star Trek, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where the Dolphins haven't been in half a century, the postseason, at least in a meaningful way. I know they made it with Chad Pennington at quarterback once, and they had
They made it Matt Moore, too. They made it Matt Moore a couple years ago, too.
I'm getting there. A playoff team that was quickly ousted by the Steelers that we just mentioned, with your good friend Matt Moore, as you cited. Neither team was really credible. It was one of those somebody has to make it kind of situations.
Yeah.
But everybody else is holding firm. And I'll tell you what, with the Bills, I'll give Big Jim this credit. If Stephon Diggs, the actual offensive MVP of that team, pulls in more than 70 yards when they're playing the Steelers, I think they'll have enough balance to where they actually do win.
Okay, Big Jim. So you got, like I said, the 17th I mentioned, the four division winners: Steelers, Chiefs, Titans, Bills. Right now, your wild cards are the Browns, Dolphins, and Colts. Right now, we start today. Does this hold?
I don't think it does. Like I'm looking at the schedules here and just a quick glance. I mean, the Browns have Tennessee, Baltimore, the Giants, the Jets, and the Steelers. Obviously besides the two teams from New York / New Jersey, if the Ravens can kind of find themselves, that's a big game. But Tennessee, Pittsburgh, those are losses in my mind for Cleveland. In terms of the Colts holding on, I hated Phillip Rivers his entire career.
Why? Nice Catholic kid.
Baby bitch, and I'm sick and tired of seeing his pouty face all the time.
9 kids.
Oh, that's great. And he probably has a hot ass wife, and he, he does what married people do, and he has a lot of kids. Good for him. I'm proud of that. As a quarterback, you're a whiny bitch who gets boo-boo face when things don't go your way.
I love Big Jim. I love Big Jim unvarnished.
Not this week, but following week, they have a game against the Raiders. If the Raiders win that game, I think the Raiders have an easy schedule. I think. Jets, Colts, Chargers, Dolphins, Broncos. That's a very easy road. For the Ravens, they have the Cowboys, Browns, Jaguars, Giants, Bengals. That's an easy road. Mm-hmm. The Patriots, they have Chargers, Rams, Dolphins, Bills, Jets. I mean, Chargers can, if they don't charger themselves, that's some trouble. But otherwise, the Rams are good. There's some winnable games for New England. I'm not totally sold on them, but I think the Raiders and the Ravens can both make pushes to knock out the Browns and Colts. I do think the Dolphins, will hold on and make the playoffs. We debuted a new segment on Huddle Up this week, Facebook.com/Huddle Up Podcast, Twitter @HuddleUp Podcast.
Nice plug.
That was awesome.
I'm good.
It's like Harold Finkel.
But you can, it was something where we said that the least likely scenarios that are still possible, and I said that I think that one of mine was that the Dolphins, not only do they win the AFC East, but that Tua doesn't take another snap this year. The Dolphins, I think, especially if that defense and special teams keep playing well, they're going to hold on. But I don't think the Colts and Browns do.
Okay, so here's where I stand. I think the division leaders right now, they're all going to hold. I think Steelers win the North, Chiefs win the West, Titans win the North. Is that right? No, Titans win the South.
No.
South. Sorry, the
There
South.
you go.
They won the AFC Central for a second. Almost at Central for a second. The Titans win the South, and then what's the other team here? Was saying here? The Bills win the East. I think the Bills win the East. They're better than the Dolphins. I do think of the 3 wildcard teams, 2 will hold. The Browns will get in. I don't know what seed they'll get in, but they'll get in still. The Dolphins get in. I do not believe in the Colts. Their defense is really good, obviously. But I just think, like I said, Phil Rivers, he's hot and cold at times, so I think that'll cost them. I still like the Ravens. I still do. I think they'll figure out a way to get once this COVID situation clears up with the next week or two.
They got to disinfect their facilities before they do it.
Tell me about it.
Kidding.
And once they do, Lamar Jackson will go apeshit, and I think they'll make up some ground and they'll get in the playoffs. I don't believe in the Raiders either. I think the Raiders are a good team, but they're still kind of, that loss against Atlanta last week, and an Atlanta team without Julio Jones too, especially. I mean, that's kind of a scary thing, the way they lost too, especially. I will say this much though, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but keep an eye on the Patriots. Just keep an eye on that.
Let the record show in August, Ernest Julius Christian, that I had them making the playoffs at 8-8.
Mm-hmm. You did say that.
Yeah. In my preseason, I had the Patriots as the 7th seed as well.
I had Patriots as the division winner.
Well, that's because you're a fan. You were a homer right there.
Oh, come on. But I'm just saying, keep an eye on the Patriots. They're only 2 back. There's still 6 weeks to go. So just saying, keep an eye on that situation. So that's the AFC for you right there. All right. The NFC right now, as it stands right this second, right now the New Orleans Saints lead the NFC South by the Green Bay Packers lead the NFC North. The Seahawks lead the NFC West. The New York Giants lead the NFC East. That's fucking funny. It's on the record. I've gone in the last 5 weeks from wanting to tank for Trevor to now let's win this whole damn thing.
Get clever for Trevor. Say it right.
That's right. I like it. Right now, if the playoffs start today, your 3 wild cards are the following: the Los Angeles Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Arizona Cardinals. Fellas, Kyle, go first.
First of all, I'm going to go ahead and cite this so I can do it on record. Partially, I am saying this as a fan, but I'm also saying it because I call the NFC West as the elite division in the NFL this season. If the Niners don't get hit by divisions, do you understand that with them adding in that playoff spot, you could have had all 4 NFC West teams in the damn playoffs this year? How great would that have been? Mm-hmm. Anyways, with that aside, I do not in any way, shape, form, or fashion think that it's weird. I'm struggling. I'm trying to say this out loud, and I'm struggling to do it, but I have to because the AFC is usually the one that's in disarray. I think each and every one of these teams that we're looking at will, in fact, make the playoffs. And this is, by the way, me expecting the Rams to be much worse than they were.
Even the Giants?
The Giants? Sure. I mean, the NFC least is going to be the sacrificial lamb that gets blasted by somebody in like today it's the Rams. The Giants play the Rams. Can you credibly think that the team you allegedly claim to cheer for would beat the Rams? No. Come on.
They actually played them well. Was it week 3 they played them? Week 2, week 3, they played pretty well. Close
right.
game.
At the end of the day, Aaron Donald's going to look Daniel Jones in the face and say, "Get in my belly," and the game's going to end. So there you go. But I really feel like all 7 of these teams will hold. I mean no disrespect to the Eagles, but if the Eagles do win, I'm going to look like a genius when I said back when I completely understand why Doug Peterson made the call he did to play for the tie against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I'm just saying.
For me, I think the worst thing for the Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, and even the 49ers, they're not realistically or mathematically out. No. Is the problem is those teams all have to play each other, some combination of teams within that division. San Francisco, they still have Buffalo on the schedule. They have Arizona. They have Seattle. Arizona still has the Rams. Of course, they have the Rams twice coming down the line. And obviously the Rams have the Cardinals twice and the Seattle Seahawks. So that's their disadvantage is they have to play 2 or 3 games within that division. Mm-hmm. So I feel like any combination of the 49ers because of that are probably written out. Even though, I think they're very much alive. I'm looking at other teams that are in the hunt. The Bears, I don't even care that they have a cake ass schedule. The Bears fucking suck. So we can you can write them out. Again, if you're a Bears fan at Big Jim Sports, come at me.
I'll take some of that too. At the SLTG, the Bears suck.
Yes, the Bears suck. Yeah. So then I look at Minnesota. They have Jacksonville, Tampa, Chicago, New Orleans, Detroit. Most of those games are winnable. For the Buccaneers, they're off this week. Then they have Minnesota, Atlanta, Detroit, and Atlanta. Those are practically 4 winnable games. It just depends, what version of that team decides to show up. They need to have a hard sit down during this bye week and figure out what they are. So for me, maybe the Vikings get in, but the Bears no. Unfortunately, the 49ers no. The Lions obviously no. The only team that I see changing, and I kind of made this point the other day, is once Washington gets past Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh again disrupted week. Now you lose Dupree on the defense. This Washington team is playing confidently. I understand they've beaten Dallas and Cincinnati in the past 2 weeks, so I'm a little bit marked in this guy. But the defensive front's playing better. That's going to be their key. But that offense, they're running the ball well. They're keeping their defense fresh. They're not making Alex Smith do more than Alex Smith has to. They have a hard schedule: Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Seattle, and then they play Carolina and Philly. But if Washington can get through the next 3 weeks at 2-1, maybe 3-0, I really do think, and I want them to, because I think there's 2 great stories on that Washington team between Ron Rivera and Alex Smith. I want the Washington football team to end up winning the East. The Giants have a little bit of an easier road than Washington does, but based on health, the Washington is the healthiest of the 4 terrible teams in the NFC East. So really, besides some possible juggling with NFC West teams, I think the only one that really changes here is Washington winning the East.
So you got the Red Tails winning the East. I can get behind that.
I do.
I also do as well too. I think the Saints hold, obviously. The Packers hold in the North. Seahawks are going to hold in the West. I think the Redskins. And I did a podcast on the Unfiltered podcast 2 nights ago, and I said this. Like right now, based on all the optics, right now the Redskins are playing the best right now currently in that division. Especially with all the injuries went out with Daniel Jones and obviously the Cowboys and their issues and obviously the Eagles and their issues. The Redskins right now are kind of playing at the right time. So I think they win the division, obviously, the East. The wild cards, the Rams, they'll figure it out. They'll stay. The Buccaneers, with Tom Brady and company, I know they've struggled last couple of weeks, but they'll still find a way to get 10 wins. This is a tough one here. The Cardinals, I think the Cardinals will hold on, but I'm not as confident as I was a couple weeks ago. Minnesota, and look, and I know, Colin, I know you and I spoke about this a couple weeks ago about Minnesota, and they're going to find ways to lose, which of course they did the very same week we had the podcast. The same week lost to the Cowboys, and all that. We talk about the schedules and whatnot, and we say, well, this is the team that's actually will probably find a way to fuck it up, and which they did. But it's still only a game back right now in the wild card. And it's that they have a fairly solid team still. The Bears suck, obviously. We know where that goes. I'll say again though, I don't give a shit. Jimmy G, don't Jimmy G. The Niners are dangerous, and their schedule isn't that difficult either. They got Buffalo this week. They could win that game. To be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie to you.
If they don't find Stephon Diggs, if Richard Sherman's return is enough to slow him, which personally I don't think he is. Listen, I'm not trying to say Richard Sherman's washed, but Stephon Diggs is a legit talent in this league, and there's a reason why Josh Allen started to get good when he got there. I called this back on Beyond the Buzzer back in about the August time frame, July, when the trade happened too.
Right. So if they somehow get past Buffalo, it's a must win. If they win this game, the last 4 games they play Washington, which probably should win that game. Play the Cowboys. Sorry, Big Jim should win that game as well too. No
offense taken on over here.
Then the 90s. No one's hurt by that take.
Right. Then you end, right, exactly. Then you end the year against the Cardinals, who at this point might be that will probably decide the wild card most likely, depending on what Minnesota's doing at that point. So you play the Cardinals. It's a game that could go either way, and you end the year against Seattle, which by then Seattle might be benching players that week.
Yeah.
So
that's perfectly possible.
The Niners are you would say the Vikings because whatever, but I think that if I had a choice between the two teams who I have more confidence in, and this is weird to say because Mullins is the quarterback versus Kirk Cousins, but I would actually lean on Niners.
Wow.
Well,
but the Cardinals should hold. They have the better talent, of course, but we'll see. But other than that, the Skins win the East.
Hey, I got no beef with the Red Tails winning that division. By the way, this is a tribute to the talent of Big Jim. He heard Red Tails and he knew exactly what was going on and rolled with it. Meanwhile, your goofy ass still calls him by the old name. I got nothing for you, Ernest Julius Question. You need to keep up with all the talent.
Did I say Redskins?
You totally just said Redskins.
You said it on your solo pod the other day. I meant to text you and go,
why did you tell me anything, buddy?
It slipped my mind. I was listening to it. And I think my phone was in the other room charging, and I was like, "Oh man, come on, dude! Like, you gotta do better than that."
Now I got all the fucking PC police coming down my throat now. Probably the next couple of days.
I mean, when Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Michael Strahan, and Chris Collinsworth is still calling them that on broadcast and rarely catching themselves, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. So. Anyway, fellas, that's about a little over an hour. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
You want to plug away? I guess.
Kyle, go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, save that champion to get behind me here because, listen, y'all don't know by now, Kyle Nash is doing the game, trying to keep EJ in check. I didn't have to do it by myself tonight, so we might have actually caught all of EJ's mistakes. It's kind of like trying to follow and figure out what part of Donald Trump's speech is a lie. Anyways.
Whoa!
So, did that one hurt, buddy? I'm sorry.
That was fake news.
Didn't hurt me one bit.
Not me either. Fake news, brother.
Huge. No. Find me on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings on the 3pointconversion.com. Of course, check out my work with oldschool101.com as well. And then, of course, my pop culture and movie tapes with my good friend Demosthenes Euclid on the Hilarity by Default YouTube channel. By the way, for our sports people out there, during Thanksgiving week, if you hadn't caught it yet, we did explore Rocky and whether or not it is required viewing. Turned out to be a pretty good episode. And I'll see if you guys, if you watch it, you can check out my music stylings somewhere in there as well. A little bit of an Easter egg for you. But that'll do it. Yeah, I say you're going to need to spot it. I'm just saying. I'm not giving it away. Don't make me spoil it.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about The Mandalorian to ruin it for you. It's the same thing here, man. But listen, great time all the way around. Honor, joy, privilege to be with both you guys this evening. Until next time, class dismissed. Jim.
All right, you can find me at Big Jim Sports. That is on Twitter. But my two shows, I do a Tuesday night sports show at Huddle Up Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on all podcast platforms. It's me. Usually my brother's on with me every week. I have two other friends that help me out when they can. And it is, we have an absolute blast. And then Thursday nights, I do my pro wrestling show, 3 Count Thursday. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at 3 Count Thursday. Again, all podcast platforms. Please give us a like, give us a share.
The best wrestling podcast on the planet, for the record. I really mean that.
I appreciate that. We've been at it for over 6 years, on that one, pretty much every week. We rarely miss a week, for that one. And it shows, and I have a great team with 3 Count, and it's a passion. And I did 2.5 hours tonight before I jumped on here.
Another hour with me.
Another hour, but I absolutely love it. It keeps me going. Again, at Big Jim Sports, Huddle Up Podcast, 3 Count Thursday. Gentlemen, it has been an absolute blast.
Hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, guys. So that's it. Go to sleep now.
Yes, sir.
You think I'm going to come down that quickly from doing the show with you two fools? You're out your damn mind.
Yeah, I still got to go schedule all my 3 Count posts after the fact here.
What do you mean, on Twitter?
Well, yeah, all the social media stuff, and make sure the episode drops in the podcast feeds and everything. So I have another about good hours worth of work before I hit the hay tonight.
Not me. Bedtime. It's going up right immediately, but as soon as it's going up immediately, I want to sleep. So
you didn't
Big
do
Jim.
any heavy lifting tonight, Ernest Julius. It's okay.
That's all right. It's all good. All right, Big Jim, the student of the game, Kyle Nash. We'll talk soon. Great job as always.
All right, see you guys.
All right, guys, take care. You got it.